So let's think a little bit about COVID crisis and social science. So the COVID crisis started as a crisis in biology. There's a virus, that's obviously the main issue. But it became a crisis of the economy, and it became a crisis that draws heavily on social science. Why? Because we need people to behave in a different way. And unless we understand how people behave, we're not going to create effective behavioral change policies. You know, every time we create a policy, it's because we want people to behave differently. And if we don't understand people, how can the policies be effective? One of the things that we see with the COVID crisis in many countries is a reduction of trust in the government. And some for bad reasons and some for good reasons. And trust is always very important, right? Countries that have higher trust actually have higher GDP. Because if you trust people, there's a lot you can do. Also, trust is very important in COVID-19. If government that can enjoy trust can tell people, trust us, we'll fix this later, even though we don't know what to do now. Countries that don't enjoy trust have a very, very hard time adhering to the rule and doing the right thing. And I want to tell you kind of one maybe example of a trust experiment. So in this experiment, imagine I'm a waiter, and I can be either waiter 1 or waiter 2. When I'm waiter 1, I go to a table, and there's 4 people, and I go to the first person, and I say, what would you like? And that person says that they want the fish. And I said, the fish is not so good today, take the chicken. The chicken is cheaper and better, cheaper and better. And that person takes my advice. And then we measure whether the second, third, and fourth person take my advice, and whether the whole table accept my advice for wine. That's waiter 1. Waiter 2, starts the same way. I come and I say, what would you like? And the person says, I want the fish. And I say, the fish is not so good today, take the steak. It's only 3 times more expensive, but it's amazing. How much is the second, third, and fourth person take my advice, and how much the whole table is taking my advice for wine? It turns out not so much. Why? What's the difference between the first waiter and the second waiter? The difference is that the first waiter told us, take something better and cheaper, good for you and worse for me. The waiter basically told us that they are willing to sacrifice something of themselves to help us. And that creates trust, right? If you're looking for trust, you want somebody who cares about you in a real way. The second waiter, we don't know who they worked for. Are they working for themselves? Are they saying, take the steak because it's good for them, or because it's good for us? Now, maybe it's an amazing steak. Maybe that steak would have been the best decision you can make, and you would dream about that steak until the day you die. But you would never know if the waiter is working for you and working for themselves. Whereas the first waiter, you know. And that's one of the things we want to do with trust. In order to gain trust, we need to show people that we care more for them than about us. And you can think about what leaders need to do, right? If leaders of countries are asking us to do all kinds of sacrifices, social, economic sacrifices, we need to trust them. How could they create trust? They need to show us that they care about us more than they care about them.